as gas prices soar, I've been getting more and more questions about EVs, electric vehicles, Nissan Leafs, and people inquiring about purchasing. So today I want to go through some things you should know before you buy an electric vehicle. My name is Christopher. Welcome to Cars Unlocked, where we talk about all things related to the auto industry. Lots of things about car buying tips, car reviews, comparisons, and tips for people in the industry like car salesmen and car saleswomen. So let's jump into it. If you're looking to buy an EV, here's quite a few things that you should know. The first thing you need to realize is what kind of driving will you be doing? How many kilometers a day do you drive? What kind of trips do you do? What is the distance? Where do you go? And where do you travel to? It's super important so you can figure out if an EV is right for you. Keep in mind the average range on an EV might be about 200 miles or 300 kilometers here in Ontario where I live. So if you're traveling beyond that, you definitely should not be considering an EV. You want to be able to drive to work, maybe charge your car at work, and drive home. That's the ideal scenario every single day. The less time you charge it at home is going to be better on your electric bill. So if there's a charging station at your work, that's perfect. You can wake up in the morning and your work's within maybe 100 to 200 kilometers from where you live. You would want to drive to your work, plug it in, charge it through your 8-hour shift, and then drive home and park it at night. That's the ideal situation for you. Maybe your family goes camping on the weekends and they do long trips. These are things you want to consider. Do you travel more than 300 or 400 kilometers to go to these campsites or whatever your weekend activities are due? That's something to consider. Are you willing to stop and charge your vehicle for 40 minutes to an hour during that trip? Or would you just prefer to travel one way? Then you should consider a gas vehicle. It's also important to consider if the vehicle meets your needs. A lot of customers sacrifice some of their needs just to get an electric vehicle. Things like size, features, kilometers, or reliability. They sacrifice those things just to have an electric vehicle. So if you buy an electric vehicle but it's still too small to meet your family's needs, then what's the point of buying that electric vehicle? Maybe on those trips to your hockey tournaments, you find yourself, oh, we have to take the gas SUV because we can't fit everybody's hockey equipment in the back of the car. So really, those are things you need to consider. Does this electric vehicle meet your family's needs? You also want to consider the government rebates that you can get back before purchasing. A lot of governments, whether you're in the US or Canada, on the provincial, the statewide, or the national scale, will have incentives for consumers to buy an electric vehicle or a hybrid vehicle. Keep in mind that here where I live in Ontario, they're forever changing. So you want to research the history of the incentives and make sure the incentive is at that one of the highest points when you buy your electric vehicle. That's something really to consider. Right now in Ontario, I believe it's $5,000 that you get from the Liberals. I know they're proposing more. You get a $5,000 rebate when purchasing an electric vehicle. So make sure you guys consider that. Do not purchase your electric vehicle when there's no rebates because they're forever changing, and depending on the government and where you live, it can be changing. So make sure when you purchase, there's an incentive from the government. The other thing to consider is your charging station. Yes, you have to pay a little extra to buy the EV vehicle, and it's also, if you're going to be charging it from your home, you might want to have that level 2 charging station installed in your house. These can generally range from $1,500 to $3,000, so make sure you account for that expense. Also consider your driveway size or your garage size. That charging station is going to be plugged into your garage, and the cord, will it reach all the way to where you're going to be parking your car, or do you have space to park your EV in your garage to charge it? You want to be charging it at off-peak hours. If you're charging your car during peak hours, you're going to have a higher electricity bill. But it definitely will pay dividends versus the gas savings. So if you're charging your car in off-peak hours, I would expect to maybe spend maybe $50 to $100 American or $100 to $200 Canadian on your electric bill each month versus $100 or $200 per tank of gas each week even, and depending on how much driving you do. So certainly it can save you money on your electric bill if you can charge it during off-peak hours. Better yet, charge it somewhere off-site. Consider the city that you live in or the cities you travel to. Is there a lot of travel stations established? If the city you live in or where you generally are going to be parking your car only has one charging station, maybe keep an eye on that charging station every few days and see how busy that charging station is. Is there always a car parked there charging? Will you get a chance to jump in there and charge your car? If it's empty, that's great and it can be all yours. But if it's always busy, you might not have a chance to plug your car in at nighttime or charge your car when you need it. So make sure you look at the charging infrastructure in your city and consider how many charging stations are throughout your city in case you need to jump to another one or go to emergency. If you live by a dealership, the dealership where you purchased your car should generally offer a free charging station. So that would be ideal. People come to my work here, St. Catharines Nissan, and they charge their EVs all the time, and we offer free charging for all of them. So that's something to consider as well. Consider what the overall cost of an ownership of an EV will be. Generally, you're going to pay a little higher price for that EV, get the rebate from the government, but you'll still pay generally a little higher, more than what the cost is for a gas vehicle. So you want to consider how long are you going to own the vehicle for. If you're only going to own the vehicle for a year or two, the savings that you'll save on fuel aren't going to offset the premium price that you'll pay for the EV. You want to maybe plan to own your EV for a long time. It really doesn't truly start paying off until you're in about year 4, year 5, year 6, 7, 8, and so on and so forth. And that's when you'll really see the savings, because you're going to pay a premium price for the car. That premium price you're going to offset by not spending it on gas, and it takes time to meet that premium and have the numbers match until your cost of saving on fuel exceeds the premium that you paid for the car. Consider what type of EV you want to buy. Should you buy new or should you buy used? This technology in electric vehicles is just getting improved and improved every single year. And every new EV, they're always working on improving the efficiency, improving the range, and improving how far you can go on one charge. So if you're planning on buying an older EV, most likely the longevity of one charge has deteriorated and you're not going to get as far as if you buy a new EV. In today's time, the used car market is a little inflated, so make sure you're not buying a used car at an inflated price. You want to also consider when you're looking to get your EV. If you want to go the new route, you most likely will have to order your EV right from the factory, and it could take 90 days, 6 months, maybe even a year for your car to arrive. So if you plan on buying an EV in the near future, you should start looking now if you want to go new. Also consider your weather and climate of where you're at. It's very important that people don't understand how important the weather affects their charging and their range on their EV. If you drive in an environment where there's lots of snow or high winds, it will affect how far you can drive on one charge. Even using your air conditioner, it all comes from the batteries of the car, and it all affects that range that you can drive. So maybe the car is advertised at a 350 kilometer range or a 200 mile range. If you're cranking the AC, that range is gonna drop. Or if you're cranking the heat in the winter time because you're driving through snow or the car is struggling to drive through snow, definitely realize that the range is going to be affected. What kind of driver are you? These EVs, a lot of them, they don't just take off like a rocket. Only the certain ones do that are designed for that, like your Teslas and those type of things really accelerate well. However, some of just the regular EVs have a slow 0 to 60 or a slow 0 to 100 startup. So make sure you consider what type of driver you are. If you're a heavy foot person, maybe an EV might not be right for you. So those are my tips on buying an EV, some things you should consider before you make your purchase. Hopefully this helped you with your purchase, and if it did, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe to my channel. Like I said, we do all things in the automotive industry here. Car buying tips, car reviews, comparisons, and tips for people in the auto industry. I'll see you in the next one. My name is Christopher. Check me out on Instagram. Have a great day.